Welcome to the Three Degrees podcast. I'm Chris Clowninger alongside my co-host Channing Tutton and David Thorson. Make sure you find us on Substack, Spotify, and YouTube. And also, please give us a review after you listen. So Channing, you are introducing today's guest. And, I think one of the most effective ways to talk about climate change is by tossing in a little bit of comedy, which isn't the first time we've had a comedian or somebody with a comedic background as one of our guests. But you want to take it away and introduce who we are talking with today.
Yes, Chris. And for our guests, I would recommend you buckle up because we've got the dynamic Gary Kroeger with us today. And I'm going to start with this image. Last February, my wife and I were watching the 50th reunion show of Saturday Night Live. And you can even see up, there's a little yellow arrow for Gary. And my wife said, wait a minute. Who's that guy getting in Gary Kroeger's shot? So let's bring Gary in and have him talk to us a little bit about the picture, and then we'll start talking about humor and climate.
I don't know how much humor I can bring to the climate issue. However, let me explain what is now known as the picture. And actually, there's several versions of that picture. One which hangs in my office that my wife blew up and is the size of a wall. I was at the SNL reunion because, of course, I did the show for 3 years in the 80s. And so I'm always invited to these. But the way the shows go now, they're really just retrospectives of the last 10 years or so. So I never, because I'm not Eddie Murphy, I'm not Billy Crystal, I'm not Julia Louis-Dreyfus, I never get included in any of the production itself. But I know that the cast is always going to be invited on stage. So it's the good nights and everybody is working toward the stage. The stage is empty and I planted myself right next to Marty Short, who I knew was going to do the good nights. Now, I'm not really this devious because I knew Marty and it was the first time I saw him. And I said, hey, Marty. He said, hey, hang on a second. I have to do the good nights. Well, suddenly the red light is on the camera, which means that it's being broadcast to America. And I thought, well, my family's been staying up watching the show. They haven't seen me. I am going to stay right here. Now, I had worn a red tie to a black tie event because I figured I'd be in the background somewhere and they'd find the red tie and say, oh, there's Dad. There's my husband. He's there. Well, here I was center stage. And suddenly I see Paul McCartney. And I got even closer to him than I am in this picture. Paul McCartney, and I'm a Beatle fan I'll show you stuff in my office about the Beatles. I'm a Beatle fan going back to when I was 6 years old. So I'm a huge Paul McCartney fan. Suddenly there's Lorne Michaels, and it's the three of us. I get so close to Paul right after this moment here. I am literally trying to smell his aftershave. I'm not kidding. I said, if I'm going to stand this close to Paul, I want to know what he smells like. So if you watch the whole thing, you kind of see me getting closer and closer and sort of breathing him in. And that's when I saw Lorne Michaels come up and et cetera, et cetera. Well, I really thought nothing of this, but when the show was over, my phone was blowing up. Everybody I know, Kroeger, we saw you on the show. It was the good nights. You were right there at the center. And then the next morning, that picture is in the New York Times. And the day after that, it's a huge one-page picture in the Des Moines Register. And I'm doing talk shows all over the country explaining my experience with Paul McCartney. So it's now known as the picture. and I do not apologize for the picture.
I want our audience, I'm sure they're all Gary Kroeger fans like Carl and I are.
Sure.
But Gary, give us the quick rundown. Tell us about your Saturday Night Live experience. I know you're an Iowa kid, but give our audience the quick bio before we start talking about politics and climate.
I'd like to think that I did other things besides Saturday Night Live, but that's the thing that when you do it, it's like you were, it's a very small club. It's like being in the Hall of Fame. And I was just a kid going to Northwestern with Brad Hall, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, other people, Paul Barras, Rush Pearson. And we were doing comedy shows with Second City, next to Second City. And one day in 1982, the producers of SNL just came up to us. We didn't even know they were in the audience and said, can you be in New York in 2 weeks? And this was when Eddie Murphy's career was just about to explode. And of course, we said yes. And so I enjoyed 3 years on SNL, the last year being with Billy Crystal and Marty Short, which I think if you're a true SNL fan, it it's up there in the pantheon of the best years. And they truly were the stars, but I was really starting to find my legs and stuff, and I would have gone on for years, but it just didn't work out that way. But I fashioned a nice career in LA. And 22 years ago, I decided, you know what? I don't want this life for my children. I don't like, I know this is going to sound old fogey, but I didn't like the values of LA. I didn't like the values of status. I didn't like all the cars and all the pollution, for example. And I moved back to Iowa 22 years ago, where I just moved from. And we can get into this because my wife and I said, we just can't keep paying taxes in a state that wants to silence us. Silence us for climate change, silence us for being pro public education, silence us for supporting trans rights and gay marriage, et cetera, et cetera. And we moved to Vermont, which is where I am now with delicious maple syrup.
Well, I have a stepdaughter who lives in Vermont, and she's very progressive and is supportive of all the things that you said. So I love Vermont also. I have so many questions, especially after all the things you just said. But, you know, as a fellow Iowan, I know you grew up in Cedar Falls and far away from the ocean, and adventures that I found myself, you know, going to and growing up and dreaming about doing those things. But those are the things that got me into climate science, you know, that's what took me there. So I was just curious, maybe it would be great for the viewers of this program to have you talk a little bit about what was it for you, the aha moment, or was there that got you interested in the issue of climate change?
There's a lot of answers to that. You know, first of all, meeting Channing is a big part of it. Channing really activated my activism in a way when I was a candidate. He made sure that I was putting climate change at the top of my list. Well, I'm the father of 5 kids, 2 of my own and 3 from my wife. And you know what their pressing concern, this is no surprise to you, their pressing concern about their future is, what's the environment going to be that you're handing over to us? Can we breathe? You know, are extreme weather events things that we have to deal with? Are we going to be breathing carbon monoxide? I mean, their concern became the preeminent issue, because if the next generation isn't handed an environment that they can handle, that they can live in, that they can improve, then what's the point of every other issue? What's the point of great economics if you can't live, if you can't drink the water, if you can't breathe the air? What's the point of any issue above climate change? And then I met Channing, and as a candidate, first for Congress and then for the Iowa House, we became great friends. I think I said those very words to Channing, and he said, right on, you're the candidate that I want to help craft a climate message with. And that's really what it is. And when I was running, and this would be 9 years ago, 2016, the beginning of the Trump revolution, I was learning from Channing, and I was learning from doing deep study. You know, is it the carbon tax? Where are we going? Is a Pagovian tax the right thing to do? And we shared lots of ideas about how to promote alternative energy, clean energy, how to reduce our carbon footprint. And we worked hard to get all of those ideas into the public sphere. And we had the numbers behind us. Climate issues rank high, and especially with the next generation. But what we saw happen, and we can get into this, was a revolution of, forgive me for saying it, of ignorance. A revolution of, hey, climate's not the issue. It's all about, you know, the cost of gasoline and bread. And the drill baby drill people just started coming forward in droves and droves and droves. We saw 4 years then under Trump of denigrating climate science. There was a recovery, obviously, with Biden, but now Trump is back on steroids. And this big, beautiful bill, which takes away incentives for clean energy, for example, in fact, even punishes these companies, we're in a pickle. We're in a pickle. That's why I welcome this opportunity to speak with you guys and hear what you have to say, because it is going to be about messaging, and it is going to be about getting climate candidates in place again. But I'm as curious as you are, probably, and want to hear from you what you think is the way we should now pick up the baton and carry it into the future.
Chris, let me jump in here if I can on you. Do you have that graphic of Gary's Facebook post from when he was the candidate?
I do.
Yeah, why don't you pop that up? So Gary's very kind talking about Channing, but the first person who told me about Gary Kroeger said, you need to talk to this guy because he's much more than a Saturday Night Live guy. And the moment I met Gary, I was blown away. Now, this is a Facebook post from May 28, 2015 that I have saved and that I give to candidates who are thinking about running. And Gary, walk us through what you are doing here, because I think we want to talk about messaging for candidates today, 10 years later. Is this the time? How would we do it?
Well, thank you for the biggest question that could possibly be asked, because that's huge. It's huge, but it's what we have to talk about. And there are so many things. Do we try to approach them with some humor? Do we try to approach them with the gravity of it, which my post was about? Do we get more candidates involved? Do we support them with money? Well, here's the cynical side of me. We've been doing that. And I feel that we're farther behind the 8 ball in terms of legislation than we were 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago. So do we continue to do the same thing? Well, here's the optimistic side of me. Yes. We have to keep expanding the consciousness, the generational consciousness of what this condition is. Now, I use, and you guys use, and certainly a meteorologist understands, the actual factual data that is alarming. But I'm offering something else. My data is anecdotal, but I have 50 years, I'm 68 years old. So let's say I have 50 years of active participation in what my environment has been doing. And I can tell you for a fact that in the last 10 years particularly, and I fly a lot, more extreme weather events cancel more planes, turbulence is worse to where it's actually causing injury. I now expect to have a bad flight, whereas for 40 years, 30 years, I didn't. I know for a fact that this is climate. This is rising sea level temperatures. This is, decreasing ozone. This is all of this conspiring. The tornadoes and the hurricanes in particular are the greatest barometer that Mother Nature can provide us to wake us up, are such increased intensity and frequency that we have to pay attention. I believe that getting that scientific data out there and just keep getting it out there. I saw a graph that showed the human carbon footprint up until the Industrial Revolution and then beyond. And it was like, we're coming along, and then it spikes. So you can't, if you're a rational human being, look at that change and not go, holy crap, it's only going to get worse unless we top this off and reduce our carbon footprint, unless we take climate science seriously, unless we listen to the 98% like Chris who are saying, ladies and gentlemen, this is about the future. This is about your legacy. This is about your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren. This is not about the selfishness of cheap gas. Mm-hmm. This is about the future. And I believe that the more we hit people with scientific and anecdotal evidence, that we can begin to reach that critical mass. Mm-hmm. It's the only thing I can hope for.
when you look at what the Yale program on climate change communication, their data shows only 44% of people believe that they're directly affected by climate change. I think it's a failure of the media. It's a failure of our political system. And I used to kind of like the camaraderie between members of Congress, and now it kind of infuriates me that behind the scenes they're all pals, because really there's some assholes that really shouldn't be there that are really screwing our country. And I don't think that they're doing enough. Even the ones that I've supported, even the ones that have backgrounds in science. I do want to ask you, though, as a creative, who is effectively telling the climate story? And that can be a politician, that can be someone in the media, someone in Hollywood. Who do you think is doing a good job, Gary, at communicating this?
Well, me personally, you and meteorologists like yourself. The weatherman meteorologist, and by the way, I did play a weatherman on Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is a very funny episode that we can go into if you like. But it's always been true that when you watch your local news, who is the celebrity of the local news? It's the weather person, because that's the information that affects you tomorrow, your car wash, your picnic, and everything. They're the most criticized. Oh, they're wrong again, etc. But they are the person that is most relevant in the day-to-day lives of people. So when you have the credentials that you have of a meteorologist, someone who studies these things, the patterns, the climates, the frequencies, I think that there's a credibility that politicians will never have, because they can put up all the science in the world and all the facts, and they're just going to be met with an equal opposite counter reaction of, it's all bullshit. But on the grassroots level, I think it's the scientists in the field that we're listening to. And then it's up to the media, it's up to big mouths like me, and it's up to the politicians who do understand to then repeat and repeat and replicate and wash and rinse and repeat this information of the crisis of it. I mean, there's some great philosopher, and I can't remember who, said change happens so slowly, but then when it happens, it's too fast. We've been leading up to this for centuries, and people look out and go, well, you know what? It was warm last year too, and 10 years ago we had these floods. It hasn't changed. You can look at this myopic view and say, oh, nothing has changed. But the truth is, and I'm preaching to the choir, we are in a crisis. We are this close to the spring unwinding so fast that there is no solution. I mean, that's my fear. Yeah. So in other words, and I'm rambling, I think, I haven't been funny at all, have I? It is so crucial to have these podcasts. And here's the thing, in answer to your question too, our message has to have the passion. I don't know that you can be funny about, you're all going to die. I don't know that too much information always leads to overload, but credible, passionate information, messaging gets through. It gets through. I think that what you're doing here just needs a bigger audience. It gets through, and more people need to be doing this.
I do want to jump in at my video if it does show, because I remember that episode because I'm a huge Curb fan, and the theme song to that was the perfect. I did a two-part edit, just 2 videos, and because this man changes faster than the tide, you can use some humor in just showing the stupidity of this administration. And this is an example, but with the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme song.
Not everybody wants an electric car. I don't want an electric car.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Stupidity knows no bounds.
Yeah.
He was basically a Tesla salesman 3 months ago, and now he's taking away all the incentives for electric cars, and just destroying the environment. But David, I don't want to take.
Well, no, I mean, I'm telling you that's it, because I I think that the Democrats have been so hesitant to talk about climate change, even though climate shows that in Iowa, for instance, over 70% of the people want some sort of climate action to take place. Over 70 or 80% support clean energy projects and such. And yet politically, the Democrats, I'm generalizing, but on the whole are kind of afraid to come out for conservation and the environment, climate change. And I really feel like they almost need to go to some kind of workshop or seminar or something where they can meet with somebody like you, Gary, and like learn to lighten up and not maybe talk about it in such doomerism and such gloom and doom, that there's a lot of hope that comes with it about what we can be and how we can transform things in positive ways. So how can comedy sort of like maybe help them communicate better? What would you suggest?
Well, I'm going to do a little bit of a pivot here, because I think that I was speaking doom and gloom there because of the urgency of this, which I know that we all agree on. But you're right, doom and gloom is a tough sell. Yeah, the world's going to end. Right. Tough sell. Because people see what's in front of them. Well, the sun came up again tomorrow, so the world didn't end. That's what they see. That's the reality. So how do we get through that? Well, comedy is a way. What Chris just showed with our illustrious leader, that's a good use of comedy to show the hypocrisy, the contradictions of current leadership. I think that Saturday Night Live could certainly deal with this in a more comedic way and get people's attention to understand that it's comedy doesn't sell the message, but it brings you into the message. And so there probably are ways to do that aren't so doom and gloom. What happens in answer to what you said about Democrats is that when you're losing, you tend to lose your scope. You tend to lose your platform. And you go, why did we lose? Oh, well, we talked too much about climate change and not enough about the price of bread. We didn't address oil prices. We didn't address this. What the Republicans are very good at are creating distractions. Mm-hmm. Immigrants are invading America. We have to do something about it. It's an invasion. They're going to kill you and take your job. They're very good at creating these distractions, and the Democrats go, oh, yeah, we got to do something about that. And then we lose our core issues, which were the issues. Equal rights are the issues. Climate change is the issue. Cost of education is the issue. But we lose it trying to deal with all of what you saw with that Trump video of their contradictions. They keep moving the goalposts and convincing through Fox News and huge information sources enough people to make those the issues. So it's I used to say when I was on the stump, it's much harder to be a Democrat because we're actually looking for solutions to real problems. We're actually trying to do something for the common good. Those solutions are much more complicated than easy platitudes like invading immigrants. So we have a tough job. So how we do it, I think the answer is all of it. All of it. Put the money toward climate-focused candidates. Put the message into those who are saying, hey, ladies and gentlemen, if you care about your children and your grandchildren, the air that you could breathe in 1960 isn't going to exist. The weather that you enjoyed as a sailor isn't going to exist. Isn't it important that we do something about it? Well, we can. We can, but it's going to take a collaborative effort, work, and it's going to take money. It's just the way it is. All good things do. Now, I think that wasn't a very funny message, but I think that there are ways to get people's attention. Again, I go back to that funny video that Chris just showed. You could show me on Curb Your Enthusiasm where Larry accuses me of making up weather reports in order to have the golf course free. And I pulled some BS out of my arse about, well, it's the jet stream. I don't control the jet stream. And Larry said, well, there's a jet stream of bullshit coming out of your mouth. Well, you pivot from that into a real climate message, and I think we got some attention.
I want to play that clip because it is good, and I this was truly, I'm not just saying this, Gary, one of my favorite episodes. Probably because I'm a meteorologist, but
let's wake up in the morning.
Is the sound coming through?
Yeah.
No, you'll never stay home with Sammy.
So here's the confrontation when Gary finds the weatherman playing with Dr. I'm blanking his name.
What's going on?
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
Good day for golf. Yeah, you know, I was supposed to play today.
Really?
Then Jeff called me last night and canceled because of your weather report about thunder showers.
Made a mistake. For what? Oh, I said it was going to be thunder showers?
Yeah.
Oops.
Oh, oops.
Yeah. Okay. Good to see you.
Too bad for me.
Take care.
Too bad for me.
I don't quite get your point.
All right, well, man, I'm going to tell you my point. I've got a sneaking suspicion that you're predicting rain to clear the golf course for yourself.
Oh my God. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Larry.
ridiculous.
Come on.
Ridiculous.
It's
It's
the
happened
weather.
before, weatherman. You know it. And you know what? I'm calling the weather people.
You're going to say, report me because it's a nice day?
I'm going to report you because every time you want to play golf,
Larry.
you make sure that it's raining.
Larry, first of all, I'm not a weatherman. I'm a meteorologist. I'd appreciate a little bit of
excuse
respect,
me,
Larry.
All right,
Come on, can you
doctor.
guys just calm down? We're in the middle of a game of golf here, all right? Larry,
Yes.
there's a low-pressure system sitting out over the coast. The jet stream brings that into this area.
The jet
The
stream.
jet stream is controlled by the rotation of the Earth. You know who controls that? God.
Yeah. You know what? There's a jet stream of bullshit coming out of your mouth, my friend.
That truly is one of the best interactions.
Quite possibly the best ad lib in history was Larry on that. Now, here's the thing. There's no script. He just said, you make some stuff up. I'm going to confront you on the golf course. So I, with my limited weather knowledge, remember the jet stream, the rotation of the earth and all that. I loved ad libbing. I'm not a weatherman. I'm a meteorologist, and I'd appreciate a little respect. But Larry pulled that line out, and I knew it was brilliant when he said it. But the point being, okay, that gets people listening, right? You're right. Comedy can do that. And obviously you have relatively credible, you've got Larry David, who absolutely believes in our cause. Mm-hmm. Now we have to turn that into data, urgent data. It's doable.
Let me jump in here, Gary, and get your take on this. Over my right shoulder is a sign and a theme that I love called Climate Action for Your Kids. And my current kick, if you were running in 2025, is I've been saying to candidates, this is the message that puts the Republicans behind the eight ball because they have no answer. And just so our audience gets a feel for the depth and scope of Gary Kroeger. Gary, why don't you take this Climate Action for Your Kids and give us the close of a stump speech that you might deliver to a 4th of July gathering, at a political party. How would you message climate action for your kids in contrast to the Republicans?
Wow, you put me on the spot, but I actually enjoy this. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I pointed out the issues that concern me, and I started with climate action. I started with climate action because it's a serious concern, because I do believe 98% of the scientific community saying we're in trouble. Now, we talked about the economy, we talked about foreign policy, all of which are extremely important. But what issue can be more important than the world that we hand our children? Now, the economy is important, whether or not the world is safe, with there's genocide occurring, all of these issues are important. But I keep saying this word, the world. The world is a closed unit that has an atmosphere, it has oceans, it has climate. Human history has always evolved and revolved around climate. There's water here, people migrate there. It's always been the case. We have had the luxury, those of us who are my age, in and about, a little older, a little younger, the luxury of clean air initiatives, clean water, and clean water initiatives. And we have prospered from it. But now we are at a very crucial turning point where the regulations to control clean water and clean air are being wiped away by an ideology that does not care about science. In fact, they think science is a contradiction to their way of life. We have to know better, and we have to do better. It's not for us alone. It's for our children and our grandchildren. It's for the continuation of the human race. And that's the most personal issue that faces every single one of us. Climate may not be your most important issue. You may have lost your job. We understand that. But if there's an issue where we can all come together to make change and watch it happen for the benefit of the future, it's taking climate action. Thank you, and enjoy the hot dogs.
Right here on the 3 Degree Podcast, Gary Kroeger announces for 2025.
Well, you always push me that way. You know, I ran my best, and I spent every dime that I had. Races in 9 years are exponentially more expensive. With the money that I raised, and I thought I raised good money, I don't think you could be elected to dog catcher in this climate. Until we do something about campaign finance reform, it's very hard to get the right people into the right places. Now, again, that's the pessimistic side of me. That's my story. I don't think that I want to call all my friends. Hey, Chris, I haven't talked to you since the podcast. You got $500. Hey, David, yeah, I see you're back on land. You got $500. Channing gave me a lot of money, by the way. He's one of my best benefactors. But it's so hard to raise the money. But we have an administration that doesn't want campaign finance reform because they get elected with that big money. So we're in a precarious time. And so that's the pessimistic side. But the optimistic side says this: what other choice do we have? We have to keep moving forward. We have to keep trying to recruit candidates. We have to keep trying to get the message out. It's the only game in town. There isn't an option here. We don't get to go, well, it's over. Let's get the best 10 years left that we can. Not an option. So this is what we have to do. And I actually get goosebumps when I get on my high horse like this and meet, Channing, you're old news, but you guys, we just met, and Channing is such a joy to know. I mean, and by the way, when you go out to drinks with Channing, and hopefully you've had the opportunity, you're a lot of fun. But two new people that I truly admire, and we're on this vessel out in the middle of the sea, and we got to get home. So let's use our compass and our brains and do it.
I mean, we need a big momentum shift, because you have a political party where if Trump says gravity didn't exist, even if their 2 feet are on the ground, they'd say, all right, it doesn't exist. It's magic. Magic that
we're going to cut that program for gravity.
The gravity.
Yeah. I do want to plug your show. You have a podcast.
I do.
The Gary and Kenny Show. You can find that on all the places that you can find your podcast that you listen to. I still want that golf tip, by the way.
I will give you the golf tip, but also, I do blog. Gary Has Issues, and I keep I write on Substack. So there are ways, I like. And on Facebook, I Facebook like it was 15 years ago, and I'm in high school. I mean, I'm on there every day, posting everything, because I'm trying to create interest in audience, so that when I do write about climate change, I get people, and then exponentially it sort of gets out there. The golf tip was this, because I came up with one not knowing if it would come up in conversation. Larry could have approached me in that last scene and said, what's the golf tip? So I was prepared. And it is this: loosen your grip. Loosen your grip, because when you have a tight grip, which is the tendency, your club face is now committed to either a slice or a hook. But when you loosen the face, the probability of the club face hitting the ball flat increases. Yeah, you didn't expect that, did you, Chris?
I did not. Wow, that is awesome.
Yeah. Eh?
I love it.
Man, I had a family golf outing this morning, and I swear that was my problem. I was just a little too tight on the grip, man.
You get tight, and we do line it up, practice swing, and then we tighten the grip. And if it was a little bit this way, you're gonna hook. Yeah, there you go.
Well, no, I play golf to the right, but I'm definitely politically left, so I don't know which way.
Good segue. I do want to point out that I'm a horrible golfer. So, so just like I'm a horrible meteorologist as well, but still, sometimes I have a grain of truth.
Awesome. Gary Kroeger, thank you so much for joining us today on 3 Degrees, the podcast. It was an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for your time. But for Channing Dutton, David Thorson, I'm Chris Cloninger. Until next time, everyone, stay safe.
Thank you.